There's something beautiful about being in human form, the essence of our humanity, captured in the cellular construct and this nervous system that gives us feedback, pleasure, pain, hot, cold, sensation, desire. And this creates the foundational fabric of our existence. A long time ago, I used to not appreciate my embodiment. And to be honest with you, it's actually still new for me. And I have some theories about why this is that I'll get to a little bit later. But if you're like me, and you hear things like your body is a vessel. I grew up religious, and so I heard quite a bit that our bodies were temples, but I didn't really connect with what that meant until I started actually appreciating my body as a vehicle and understanding the very important role that it plays in my spiritual awakening, holding my vibration, holding my essence like a container. For many of you who grasped this a lot earlier than I did, then you're probably thinking, yes, that's obvious. But here's why it isn't to some people. If you've ever heard of the Enneagram, it's this personality test that you answer a series of questions, and it breaks down all humans based on their core dominant personality and how they respond to the outside world. I'm not an Enneagram expert, but I had it explained to me by somebody who was doing a deep dive, obsessive studying, and I cross-checked some of the things that they taught me, and other sources agree. But I'm not a proponent of it necessarily, but I find it interesting for this particular example. So the Enneagram classifies everybody based on this dominant personality, and then it says that at some point in your life, you will actually develop other aspects of your personality, and you will go through all of the different types. And so your dominant will have two wings, and those are two extra influences. So even though you came in with the baseline, it's understood that you're going to switch at certain points in your life. And when my friend was telling me this, we were trying to figure out mine, and she was breaking it down based on, well, do you process information with your mind, your body, or your heart? Because all of the different character traits are lumped together in those categories. And I had this really big aha moment because I have always been heavy in my mind, and a lot of my close friends, especially my neurodivergent friends, are so disconnected from their body that they have to remember to eat. They have to remember to take care of themselves by going to the bathroom. And their bodily experience is one of almost complete darkness. And I used to have that relationship too, which is why I never understood what people meant, not really, not intuitively, deeply, when they said your body is a temple or a vehicle. And it's because I was so in my mind. Like that's where my essence of my consciousness was, my awareness. And separate, I would have this emotional and body experience that I had to learn through therapy, traditional therapy. I had to learn how to connect. Isn't that interesting? And since my spiritual awakening, and since I have developed my emotional body, And now the sort of last thing to come online is being in my body and in full embodiment and connecting with my intuition, connecting with my energy. What I have observed on the spiritual awakening journey is that not everybody goes in the same order. In fact, there are a lot of people that are very body centric, and they grasp synthesizing information through their visceral nervous system, through other parts of their being that many do not. And similarly, there's a whole bunch of people that are very emotionally connected and have been their entire lives. And they approach spirituality through this heart-centered place, and that's easy for them. And there are a lot of teachings oriented towards people like that. But for me, accessing my heart chakra was like the hardest. My third eye was way easier than my heart chakra. And so this is why, even though I'm not a big proponent of personality tests in general, and especially the Enneagram, because I don't want to get into it, but I find that these categorizations are limitations because we over-identify with our score. And then what it does is it shuts down other parts of our developmental cycle, and it slows everything down because we wear it like a badge of honor. And this is also my reservation and complaint about the Myers-Briggs. And I used to love personality tests. And I still view astrology in the same way, that it's a great starting point, but not one that we should overly attach to. There are many, many complexities. So that being said, what is beautiful about the Enneagram is that it seems to understand that different people will come online in a different order and a different arrangement. And this is what I want to call to your attention, because I don't feel that this is always spoken about. In fact, it seems to, when you hear teachings in modern day society, there seems to be this blanket assumption that we all start from the same baseline. I don't believe that we do, but you can let me know in the comments if you would like to. And when I work with people that are very heavy in the mind, what I like to do is to shift their energy when it's appropriate, and we can't always do it, but shift their awareness and the seat of their perceptual experience. I like to try to change that just a little bit, and not all the time, but to open them up to a different way of feeling and a different way of being, and to build different neuronal connections that they might not be used to. And this is part of my client work. If you've worked with me, then we've done some exercises to do this, especially if you've been heavily oriented in the mind. And the amazing thing about centering more into the body is that you align all cylinders to be able to fire in this very smooth way. It's almost like all of the components line up in this ding, 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 ding. So when you go about your everyday world, everything is in order, everything is working the way that it's supposed to. But when you're heavy in one and missing another. And this is why I feel that there are many people on the spiritual awakening journey. I've talked about it before, about the yoga teachers that were disasters, because I had to observe this, thinking that everybody was coming at it from the same angle. This was my mistake. I am catching up to my body, and there are a lot of people out there that are catching up to understanding the way their mind works. And so as a result, they still have work to do in their mind and in their behavior, sometimes their emotional patterns as well. And so when everything is aligned, it creates this vibrational essence that closes your auric field. It's like if the essence of you is heavily centered in your mind or your body, let's say your solar plexus versus your third eye or your throat chakra versus your root chakra, you'll have gaps in your matrix, your energy matrix, because you'll have parts of your being that are not flowing properly. And as a result, your manifestations can get a little wonky. It's not that it doesn't work, because you've been manifesting your entire life with your dominant function. But when you complete the chain, it smooths everything out and it creates this frictionless manifestation process because it's harmonized. And being embodied with all of those connection points firing on all of their cylinders creates this vortex of energy that I believe is what Abraham Hicks is talking about when she talks about stepping into your vortex. And she would have seminar after seminar after seminar of many, many people that would struggle with doing this very thing. And I believe that it's possible, that it's because not all aspects of their humanity were online. Perhaps they were just in their body and their emotional templates weren't developed yet. And so by understanding how we are having a human experience in our embodied form, how we are sensing the world around us and processing that information, we gain insights in our ability to connect with the ether, with the beyond, with our own path of awakening and developmental cycle. And I happen to believe, and this is a recent belief, that as a species, we have this misconception that once we reach adulthood, that we're done evolving. Have you ever noticed that? That it's like once you hit a certain point of adulthood and maturation, you're good to go, and that's it. Even though we know, neuroscientists know that emotional regulation and inhibition continues to develop into early 30s. But we don't really factor that into our understanding of what it means to be human, and what it means to build a life and make decisions for ourselves along the way. And similarly, I believe that there are other aspects of evolution that come online after that we don't know about, or that we do know about, but we don't characterize it in any sort of academic or medical setting. Because those who have undergone a spiritual awakening and another level of evolution, of self-mastery, of energy development, of the clairs, all sorts of abilities that a lot of humans have, right? That we don't learn about in textbooks. We don't really have any education about. But there's this whole other process of becoming human that is incredibly important and profoundly measurable, I would say, in terms of how it affects somebody's physiology, how it affects their cognition, the ability to process new levels of information. And so when we think about what it means to be an embodied human, I believe that there are numerous things that we leave off of the discussion table when we are coming from an ordinary 3D binary society. Oh, here's the keys to your car. You're good to go. Yeah. You can vote now. You can do this. You can do that. But you can't actually rent a car until you're 25, especially if you are of a certain gender. And there are other things that indicate that we're not fully developed, even in our 30s. Raising the question, to me at least, what does it mean to be human? Exactly. What does it mean to have a human experience? Is it simply human form? What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be an evolved human? What does it mean to be a next level human? In a world that is full of degenerate humans. I mean, sometimes it feels that way, right? You're like, whoa, you are an animal, and you're proud of it. You're proud to be fighting like a dog in the street or, anyway. So when we manifest, back to our program, when we manifest and we have this vibrational essence that creates frictionless harmonizing when we are fully online and when we are fully in alignment. But can we have that harmony with just our consciousness alone? Do we actually need a physical form to manifest in the physical world? This is an outstanding question, because I have memories of being able to manifest without a physical form, and in fact that a physical form was just almost like you have many cars throughout your life, depending on where you come from. Not everybody is in the car culture, but if you are in the car culture, then you have many makes and many models, and that doesn't define you. It doesn't define who you are, but here it seems to define us. And if embodiment has a punctuation point that is very, very significant for our existence in this lifetime, speaking from a binary perspective where we only have one, then does that mean that we never get to change out our physical form? And what does that mean for potential other conscious beings that have different physical forms, or perhaps no physical forms? Do we weight our existence preferentially by our embodiment, even though we know that this existence and this embodiment is temporary and is simply a vehicle, an important vehicle, but a vehicle nonetheless, interchangeable? And at what point in the future, when we hit the singularity, is there a distinction between us and AI?